want to start with Huawei. It's all over the front pages, isn't it? With consequences, one might imagine.
Yeah, really big domestic story, and it does feel like this is the sort of first big test of the Prime Minister since he won the election. There's been pretty low profile, bit of an outing on Iran, but this is a very big, meaty domestic issue, and lots of good and bad. Now, they've announced today that the Huawei deal is going to go ahead. They've said that they recognise that there are concerns about it. They're going to limit the market share to 35%, and the Prime Minister has given a commitment to work with other companies to develop the technology. But there is still real concern about this. There's concern domestically amongst MPs who are very loyal to Boris Johnson over Brexit, people like David Davis, Ian Duncan Smith. David Davis has been very robust about how he feels this is going to be a security risk. But the other group of people who are very upset about this are the Americans, because they see us as a strategic ally to them. They're very, very worried about, the consequences of Huawei getting involved. Huawei has been banned from getting involved in any sort of American infrastructure. There was a Republican Senator, Tom Cotton, who issued a very damning statement saying, it seems to me that London has freed itself from Brussels only to concede sovereignty to Beijing. So there's a big geopolitical story in this about where Britain's place is in the world and who do we ally with? Do we ally with the Americans, or is this something that actually we're going to have to start doing more business with other big players like China?
And if we take a look at the Telegraph, it seems that Boris Johnson has spoken to Donald Trump this evening, reassured him, as the paper says, that it will end its reliance on Huawei when the moment is right, no doubt, when Western suppliers almost catch up. But has this been a big miss, do you think, for many nations who need this technology to further drive a tech economy, which is obviously what this government has decided our position should be in the world?
Yeah, the government made the basic decision today, which was not to go with Huawei, because there really are 2 or 3 suppliers in the world who can do this at the moment, who can build a 5G network, would be to effectively take a significant economic hit. Britain would basically be taking one for the team. We'd take one for the world, stop Huawei from having huge access to our 5G network and the business that goes with, not necessarily all our secrets, because I think that really can be mitigated. We have to trust GCHQ, who are the best in the world at this, if they say they can do that. It's more giving Huawei the economic boost, and thereby China the economic boost, and spreading the message around the world of, well, if Britain can do it, then so can the rest of the world. We were basically been asked by the Americans, just to flip it on its head, to take one for the team, to not have a 5G network for 2 or 3 years, as the government analysis came up with, if we were to leave Huawei out of it. For all therefore, the damage it would do to the economy, connectivity wouldn't improve, people's lives wouldn't improve, and all those incredible AI inventions like, automatic cars, driverless cars, and the like, simply wouldn't happen. And the government said, well, actually, no, we're not going to take one for the team. We're going to go with this, and, unfortunately, it's going to have its, ramifications with the alliance with the US. Now, what this comes down to basically is not really Boris Johnson's fault. I have a little bit of sympathy for him on this. Lots of things coming up this year are indeed going to be his fault if he can't pull them off, such as an EU trade deal. But this one is one he's inherited. Every government going back really 20 years or so, possibly 30, 40 years, since the rise of China under Deng in the 70s and 80s as a major economic power, this really could have been foreseen. The moment that China was going to become totally dominant in technology, it just happens to be the 5G mobile network that the flag is being planted. At any stage, any British government could have seen that come and thought, actually, we're not going to allow ourselves to go into a position where only China is the solution to this. We're going to build our own network, we're going to ally with the US and do something, and the music's basically stopped on Boris Johnson's watch.
And your paper's, done, double page on this one. For consumers, I don't know where they would stand on this, really. The fear that the Americans will give us a bloody nose over a trade deal because of it, or really, come on, let's get this tech, this new tech adventure that we're all talking about. It's difficult to see, isn't it?
Well, I think, Tom's right. It did come down to a choice between security and the economy. And given that we don't know how Brexit's going to shake down, but the economy may well be fragile when we leave, so they couldn't afford to take a hit on this. I think when it comes to consumers aren't really going to care that much. It's a bit like sometimes we have these debates about data, and you come onto an app and it says, have you read all the thousands of clauses, or you just press the I accept.
What is the point of having
what is the
data
point?
protection? Because you just go agree as
Exactly.
fast as you can.
There's on the Daily Mash or something, it has a great thing. It says whatever, and it's just like kind of just sums it up. So I actually think consumers don't really care that much, but I do think it is very, very interesting that we have a conservative government, a right-wing, true blue conservative government, doing a deal with the Chinese. With the owner of the company has links to the Communist Party in China. I think it's really funny how politics goes through changes. If Jeremy Corbyn had suggested something like this back in the day, everybody would have been tearing their hair out. But now it just shows you, a week's a long time in politics.
I mean, this is in no way an optimal outcome. It is a very suboptimal. Huawei, part of their litany of records, certainly Chris would say, they help spy on distance for African despots. They suck vast amounts of data out of the African Union's headquarters where they have the contract and feed that back into headquarters in Shanghai. They help design spyware to suppress the Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang province. Can't even say that properly. Xinjiang province, I think is what it's actually called. So, they are a bad lot. Morally, it's a really bad thing to have to do.
Yes, and we're going to hear a lot about level playing fields at the end of this week when we come to have a trade deal. It's not a level playing field seeing this company, which the allegation is has been subsidised to the tune of billions and billions of pounds.
Which is a great irony given where we are with all the Brexit stuff. And I do think...
China's playing differently, right? What they do is, they're not a democracy. They get to do kind of whatever they want really with their companies. They don't have to worry about state aid rules, and they don't have to worry about, who they really deal with. That's why I think the one good thing to come out of all this is what Boris Johnson was saying today is that the government is going to build its own, perhaps with a big ally like the US, its own telecommunications capability. So for 6G, we don't have to play with the Chinese anymore.
Oh my goodness, I live in an area with 3G. I'm so behind, aren't I? I like your who, what, when, where, why a bit there. But just politically as well, this will have to go to a vote, will it?
Yes.
What will happen?
So this is going to be really interesting because you're going to have, with an 80 majority, it should be kind of easy street for the Prime Minister. But this actually could be the first thing which really gets him into a bit of a tangle with people from his own side. There's quite a lot of powerful backbenchers. Ian Duncan Smith, David Davis is very well respected on these security issues, and he's been talking, pretty sensibly today. Echoing what Tom was saying, but he's basically saying today, look, the only way to protect our safety and security is to ban this happening. So there are reports that there could be up to 40 rebels on this, which would be quite something for the Prime Minister, who's still basking in that, election victory.
Just when you thought rebellions were a thing of 2019.
And
guess who's back?
Yes, and meantime, President Trump has been otherwise engaged, obviously, alongside Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli leader, launching with great fanfare his plan for the Middle East, which leads The Guardian, condemned already by many Arab states, including, obviously, the Palestinians, who say 1,000 no's to this, don't they?
Yeah. It's a funny kind of peace deal when one side of the war is not even in the room and has had no conversations about this whatsoever. And it was a bit of an odd moment, really, Trump and Netanyahu congratulating themselves on this brilliant deal they come up with, which was largely, almost entirely benefiting the Israelis. All their demands were, as what's made the deal, having Jerusalem as the permanent capital of
Keeping
Israel,
the Israeli settlements in the West Bank.
recognising the Israeli settlements in the West Bank. So there's no Palestinian win in any of this.
Well, 4-year moratorium on building of those settlements while statehood is discussed is the offer.
Discussed. They're after a state, full stop, and they were offered a state under the famous two-state solution of years back. This is, I think, everyone is seeing this quite fairly as a distraction away from Trump's impeachment and Netanyahu's own corruption charges. There is also one other winner in all this, which is Boris Johnson. Going back to the Huawei story. President Trump was so occupied by his own brilliance with this peace deal today, he even made the point that Boris Johnson had rang him to congratulate him on this peace deal and was given his full support. I suspect he also mentioned a bit about Huawei in there, but as checking Donald Trump's Twitter feed, he still hasn't tweeted about Huawei today.
No.
He's tweeted about how much he personally has achieved throughout his presidency, despite all his critics, including now this great peace deal.
But I just feel this is such a one-sided... this is an insult to the Palestinians. There is no sense of a state being what they're looking for. There's no sense that they're allowed to self-govern or have any of the things that would make you state, like your own security, like an army, like control over your borders. And quite frankly, it's a distraction from his local difficulties. I mean, you've got Netanyahu and himself, he's been impeached, the other one's been indicted. I mean, it's not a great look. I think it's entirely distracting. And also, Donald Trump has this thing, and we often fall for it, which is he's some kind of Svengali on the international stage and he gets to do all these amazing deals. He doesn't. He talks a good game about what's happening on the international stage, but not that much happens. I mean, look at North Korea. They haven't yet given up any nuclear weapons. He's talked about this plan, he's delivered it. The Palestinians aren't going to go for it. It's just a load of hot air and like PR.
Yeah, and both facing tight elections as well.
Absolutely.
Apart from the other matter you mentioned. Plenty more still to come. The papers pay tribute to Just a Minute star Nicholas Parsons without a hesitation, repetition, or deviation, as will be in just a moment. Let's go inside the Daily Mail. A defence from Prince Andrew.
Of sorts. I will talk to the FBI, he says. Actually, he doesn't say, his pals say it. No one in Buckingham Palace, no one even from his legal team on the record say it. Insiders say it's all tish-tosh. The FBI never approached us. He never asked Prince Andrew anything, and if they ever do, of course, he'll be delighted to speak. There's one flaw to, I think, his valiant, deeply wronged defence tonight, which is everything that Prince Andrew is saying is via his friends off the record. Buckingham Palace won't make any formal comment. You'd think if he was dealt a grave injustice, such as refusing to cooperate with law and order, they'd say something on the record if it wasn't true. So when journalists today asked Buckingham Palace, well, okay, we'll talk to the lawyers, because the Palace said it's a matter for his lawyers. Who are his lawyers? The Palace wouldn't say. Harbottle Lewis, who the Queen's solicitors, said, no, we aren't representing him.
I mean, that's the sense that he's been cast out, effectively, though, isn't it? On this matter, at least, don't you think?
It's a bit fishy, to be honest, is what I think. And remember his response to Emily Maitlis in the famous Newsnight interview.
Yeah.
Will you go and talk to the FBI if they want your help? His immediate response was, well, I'd have to consult my lawyers first. There is shiftiness here from His Royal Highness, if you don't mind me saying.
No, absolutely. And
I also say what he said first of all. A US prosecutor yesterday, as we know, accused the Duke of York of zero cooperation with their investigation. But a source close to Andrew claimed nothing could be further from the truth. The defiant prince was in fact more than happy to talk, but hadn't been approached by them yet.
So, I mean, I agree with Tom. I just don't think this is the correct response. It's like every step of the way, he and his advisors have mishandled this grossly. You know, he showed no empathy. I mean, he shouldn't have been friends with this guy anyway. And he always seems to be the victim in all of this. I mean, it's just not just a question that he's more than happy to talk, like in a sort of passive way, like if I'm not doing anything on Sunday afternoon, swing on by.
Pop in for a cup.
Yeah, pop in for, come see the corgis. He should be volunteering to do this. And also, he doesn't seem to have any empathy for what's going on. There's another quote which says he is angry about the way and he's being portrayed and is bewildered. And it's like, well, he was friends with a notorious.
Yeah, but if this US prosecutor is being unfair to him, then you would be bewildered.
Well, the way to sort this out is to offer cooperation.
If I had some possible knowledge of a very serious criminal investigation, I would not wait, and I was innocent, I would not wait for the cops to come and knock on my door. I would say, well, look, before you kick down my door, how about, I'll make myself available, I'll come to you, let's sort this out in a more civilised way.
And if he ever goes to America, he'll get subpoenaed on this.
Yeah,
which
I suppose he won't be going there for
exactly.
We've taken a bit longer than that. I apologise. We're going to go to our final story, which is Nicholas Parsons, 75 years in show business.
Oh, well, if you were to look for the definition of national treasure, you would see Nicholas Parsons there. I mean, he's a performer, a true star that brought so much joy to so many people over so many decades. And my memories of him are for the Edinburgh Festival, which is very much seen as a young person's game. And he would go every year with his chat show, and it was sold out, and he was the consummate professional. He made it look so easy. He was so talented and such a nice man as well.
Although it has been a long while since TV presenters surround themselves with a bevy of beauties, as they used to be called.
I think those days are gone, aren't they?
That's from the start of the century. I mean, that really is dated.
It's like page 3.
Which was discontinued 5 years ago.
That's a lot. That's longer than I
a bit more often.
Thank you.